Federal Bank put out its quarterly numbers. The Q3 profits came in higher by 4.5% on a yearly basis, and net interest income was down by close to 5.8%. Mr. P.C. John, the CFO of Federal Bank, now joins in on the phone line to give us more clarity on the way forward. Thanks very much, Mr. John, for joining in. Now, to start off with, there has been a higher slippage this time around in your retail book and in your corporate book has re-emerged. What's the reason for the same, and what's your outlook on slippages?
Actually, slippages were slightly higher, but it was mainly because of one large account which slipped into NPA, which we are hopeful of getting it settled during this quarter or next quarter. Otherwise, the slippages are fully under control, and we don't expect any major concerns going forward.
Mr. John, another point of concern really is the provision cover, which has declined on a sequential basis. What is the reason behind this? And how much recoveries are you expecting from the corporate accounts that have slipped and the overall recoveries during fourth quarter as well as FY14?
I told about one slippage of one large account. Other than that account, our provision coverage still remains at 80%. For this large account, even in the worst case scenario, the maximum loss that we have to take is 40%, and to that extent we have provided. We have provided 40% on this large account, and on all the other accounts, still the provision coverage remains at 80%. When this account gets wiped off from our books during this quarter or next quarter, still then our provision coverage will continue to be 80%.
Mr. John, if we focus this time around on your asset quality, it has been a bit of a concern. Your net NPA is at 0.92% versus 0.6% on a quarterly basis. How do you see your asset quality stabilizing now?
It is, I have already explained on one large account, the provision made this time was only 40% as against the general 80% for a specific reason. Specific reason is that the maximum loss we have to suffer on that account is limited to 40%. That is why lower provision was made on this particular account. The higher net NPA is a consequence of this slightly lower provision made during this quarter on this particular account.
Mr. John, then if you can talk about the margin picture as well, because we've seen margins that have been under pressure this quarter. What do you think has led to that, and what's your outlook as far as the net interest margins are concerned over the forthcoming quarter as well as the full year FY14?
Full year FY14 margin should be 3.5 to 3.6 range. And this quarter the margin fall was mainly on account of one-off derecognition, one-off interest reversal. Otherwise the margin will more or less be stabilized around the 3.5 to 3.6 is on a stable basis we can expect.
What should we expect from the bank in terms of the credit growth in FY13 and 14? And do you expect that the credit, the kind of credit growth in your gold loan book?
Credit growth during the current year, that is FY13, will be 15-16%. But next year we expect definitely much better credit growth because the economy is also expected to perform better. Then over 80% growth in credit can happen next FY14.
Right, and Mr. John, before we let you go, just a quick word on the other side of the picture then. What are the targets that you're expecting on the deposit growth front over this year as well as the next year? And in terms of the CASA as well as the NRI deposits, what should we be looking out for?
No, deposit growth is mainly linked to credit growth. Unless there is a requirement for credit deployment, there is no meaning in just collecting more and more deposits. So matching deposits will be there. If there is a 20% growth in credit we are expecting, that means slightly more than 20% growth in deposits will also be there.